Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, and this afternoon for France Stoddard. At the start of 2020, all indications were that this would be a good year for Vermont dairy farmers. Milk prices were projected to rise after years of decline. Any optimism for dairy was curdled by the pandemic. Prices dropped, processors asked farmers to cut production, and 25 Vermont dairy farms went out of business between March and July. And yet, for all these challenges, Vermont's dairy farmers persevere. And our story today is about the dedication, about dairy farming, and about family. For well over a century, the Sunderland family has been raising animals in Addison County, and that commitment is only one reason why Sunderland Farms is being named the 2020 Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. We'll meet the family in a moment, but to begin, here's Vermont's Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets.
A commitment to their community and their cows. Hi, I'm Anson Tebbets with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture. Congratulations to the Sunderland Farm for being the 2020 Vermont Farm of the Year. They've done it for many generations on their Addison County farm, more than 350 acres. They have focused on quality milk, taking care of their animals with comfort, and also taking care of their land, focusing on the environment. For generations, the Sunderlands have embraced change. They've employed some of the best conservation practices in Addison County, focusing on what's best for the environment and their neighbors. Congratulations, you're great neighbors to all of us here in Vermont. Best of luck for the rest of the year in 2020 and years beyond that, as they are the Farmers of the Year. Well done.
I'm Keith Silva, and this is Sunderland Farm in Bridport. The Sunderland family has been raising crops and animals and running one kind of agricultural business or another for over 150 years.
This is family land. We've been here forever, and it's just a really good feeling to be home.
Yeah, you got 10 or so that need to come up there, don't we?
The farm is owned by Harold Sunderland, his brother Larry, and Larry's son, Bob.
Get all that done.
They manage 450 cows and crop 550 acres. The engine that drives this farm is family. It's a legacy that both bolsters and humbles Bob.
Everyone that is here contributes, and everybody cares. It's like, so we have two people outside of our family, but I would consider them family as well. And that's what makes this whole thing go. It's just family. Everybody, works together. And we try to do as good of a job with every aspect of the farm as we can, from the cows to the calves to the land.
Did you learn that from your uncle and your father?
It all starts somewhere, right? So I think it all started with them, just passed down to them, and now it's passed down to me. That I just want to continue that legacy and then eventually pass it on to my kids if it's something they want to do.
The hills that roll out from where the barns and the buildings stand have been home to farmers for as far back as anyone can recall. Bob's Aunt Margaret is the family historian.
I just want to tell you one story about a piece I found in an old newspaper. I was looking at this 1816 newspaper, and it said 92 acres for sale, and it started describing it, and I realized it was this property. It said there was a pleasant house with log barns and other log buildings, and I was just like, this is great. It was very exciting to find that.
Margaret takes pride that her family have been the stewards of this land as it's been passed down from generation to generation.
I don't know there's a whole lot of people that have that kind of roots. I mean, I know a lot of farms do. It's been in the same family for years, but I think it's the, knowing that your great-grandfather did the same thing you're doing here. Maybe with sheep instead of cattle, but it's a good feeling, just good.
On behalf of Vermont dairy farms and dairy farms all across New England,
Tony Kitsis chairs the committee that selects the Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. As soon as he and the judges pulled into the driveway, they knew they were looking at a strong contender for this award and an
Pastures
ambassador
Award winner.
for Vermont
You've now
agriculture.
reached The judges drive up. Their first impression is what they see. Here they saw a beautiful farm, they saw beautiful barns, up-to-date modern technology, modern equipment, and that strong desire to create a business that could be transferred to the next generation. The judges always have that conversation. Who would make a good ambassador for the Vermont dairy industry nationwide, in some cases international? And as we discussed it, and as the judges discussed it, this is the farm that rose to the top.
The Sunderlands have a reputation for implementing conservation practices like reducing tillage and planting cover crops to protect soil. Larry Sunderland says this commitment to conservation is the way it's always been.
We just wanted to get the land in good shape for crops and stuff like that, so you could grow better crops. And it was that way with my father, the same way. He just wanted to get good crops. He never carried corn more than 1 year on a piece of land. So corn takes a lot of the nutrients out of the soil, and especially clay, it's hard to grow corn anyways. And he liked to keep rotating it because he wanted to keep his fields, you know, with good grasses and hay on it and stuff like that. For as far back as I can remember, there's always been a principle of, well, how much nutrients do we need to put on the land? We don't need to overdo it. You know, I think it only makes the crops better if you can put on what you need and not any extra. There's really no point. So that's always been there. Recently, we've been starting to do some no-till practices and minimal till for corn growth, and it works. So it only makes sense to do it. You know, we're just put on this earth to, you know, I think take care of it. You know, like we were given that responsibility, and you know, it's just, farming is a big part of that. You know, just taking care of this planet.
The latest innovation to land on the Sunderland farm is the Lely Astronaut, a robotic milking machine. When the robots were installed a few years ago, Larry wondered what his dad might have made of all this.
Boy, something different. My father would have fell over backwards. I think he probably would have thought, what is this, you know? He never, because he started out years ago, probably milking cows by hand and using the old milking machines that they had back then.
Infrared scanners and self-cleaning scrub brushes have taken the place of the farmer. Bob sees this not as a loss, but as a boon to the farm's labor and efficiency.
Milking with the robots has been pretty darn good. It, you know, from a labor standpoint, we have gotten way more efficient in our labor. You know, it allows us to do crops earlier in the day and stay later if we have to, and you know, it's a lot of flexibility. You know, and plus there's things with the robots that you can keep track of on the cow that maybe you wouldn't have spotted before, but if you have a good eye for cows, you can usually see stuff anyway. But it definitely helps having the information as well.
The robots represent the future of Sunderland Farm. They're also symbolic of a change in the farm's ownership. Bob became part owner of the farm a couple of years before the robots were installed and the new barn was built. Helped by UVM Extension's Transferring the Farm program, the Sunderlands have ensured the family's agricultural legacy will continue.
Keeps the farm going, which kind of what we really wanted to do, I guess, when they built the barn up there. Wanted to keep the place going. It was either do something like that or downsize, you know. Downsize from what we had here and just maybe cut down maybe some numbers of cows and that kind of stuff. But if he hadn't been here, you know, and even show an interest in it, well, probably wouldn't have done it all, you know.
We were very glad to have Bob want to be in, and because not all farm kids want to. And so we were real glad to have Bob be in as part of to be in the farm and to be an owner. And that was a good thing, because he didn't want to be a hired man for all his life. Yeah, especially on his family farm.
Right. I think if you're gonna make a successful transition, you really got to have a plan in place to do it, you know, and that's been beneficial for sure.
Were there some hard conversations when that process was going through?
I don't think they were ever really too hard, you know. I mean, I think everybody's interest around here is what is going to be the best to keep the farm going. I think that's always been in everybody's mind, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
Farm transition planning is also known as succession. The success of the Sunderland farm comes down to a single word: family.
It's good. I mean, I wouldn't go back, you know, and say I didn't like it, because I had to like it all these years, you know. After 50 years, I think so. I'd have to say I'd like it, you know, and it's hard sometimes, and that's why a lot of guys get family involved in it, because, you know, just to keep the ball rolling, you know.
I was thinking about why I would want to do this, and the only thing I can think is, you know, it's all for my family, just to, you know, keep things going. You know, my wife and my kids, you know, provide a life for them.
We love the cows, we love the work, and that doesn't change, even if it's hard times. So you're never out of work on a dairy farm. There's always plenty to do, and it's what we love.
Over a century and a half of devotion and dedication to the land, animals, and the people that call this farm home. That's the Sunderland family, the 2020 Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. In Bridport, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith. The winner of the Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year award is honored annually at the Big E in West Springfield, Massachusetts, as part of the New England Green Pastures Award program. The Big E has been canceled due to the pandemic, but organizers hope to honor the Sunderland family at the Big E in 2021 alongside next year's winners, which is a good reminder it's never too early to nominate a farm for the award. Anyone can put forth a nomination for the Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. The program is organized by University of Vermont Extension, and you can download a nomination form at the website that's on your screen. Once again, our congratulations to the Sunderland family of Bridport, the 2020 Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year. And that is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.